3 House Democrats asked to be removed from the Trump impeachment resolution. We were talking about how crazy Democrats are, but this might actually be indicating that they're trying to get their S together. From the Hill, a trio of House Democrats asked to be removed as co-sponsors of a resolution to impeach President Trump, a sign that many in the party do not want to go down the path of trying to remove the president from office, at least at the current moment. Reps Kwesi Mfume from Maryland, Robin Kelly, and
Say
Jerry.
it with confidence.
What?
Just say it with confidence.
Kwesi Mfume, Robin Kelly, and Jerry Nadler had signed on as co-sponsors of Rep. Sheree Thandier's impeachment resolution, which includes 7 articles of impeachment. But Tuesday afternoon, they went to the House floor and asked for their names to be taken off the legislation. The House clerk granted their requests. Spokespeople for Kelly and Mfume said the lawmakers initially signed on to the effort because they assumed it had been reviewed by leadership. When they learned it was not, they asked for their names to be removed. Congressman Mfume removed his name as a co-sponsor from House Resolution 353 because he was made aware it was not cleared by Democratic leadership and not fully vetted legally. And he preferred to err on the side of caution, the spokesperson for Mfume said. The Congresswoman was under the impression that the resolution was drafted and reviewed by both the House Judiciary Committee and leadership when she originally signed on during a vote series on the floor. Kelly's spokesman said Nadler's office did not respond to several requests for comment. Do you guys buy that those are the reasons that they want their names off? Or do you think that this is just politically a bad move at this time? Because I think we're all in agreement that should the Democrats take the House in the midterms, there will be articles of impeachment filed again.
John Ossoff and Chuck Schumer already basically said that they would do that, Yeah, I think part of what happened here is that the congressman who brought the impeachment, he turned out to look a little bit crazy, and I think maybe they didn't
look a little bit crazy. The guy's $730,000 in debt in his campaign,
and he left a bunch of beagles to die in a lab in New Jersey when his business went bankrupt.
Yeah, they're not sending their best. I will tell you that. I think it is authentic that they got on it and then got off. I don't think they purposely said, "Hey, I'm going to get on this resolution and now I'm going to get off it." I think the reason is, once again, I'm not saying that the Democrats have had a full awakening, but I think they probably saw the backlash. They saw the backlash to just being super anti-Trump, and enough of their normal Democrats in their district probably like, are you serious? Here we go again with this whole impeachment thing? Let's just go after them on the issues. Let's just go after them on this. Let's just beat them in the 2026 election. So I could be wrong. They could have had this plan, and now they're going to be seen as moderates. But Jerry Nadler, his district's a D plus 100. I mean, he doesn't need to get moderate voters. Yep. So I think there's probably some.
Have you ever looked at his district, the map?
No.
It's okay. So it goes down the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and like down for a bit, and then it cuts across into Brooklyn. It covers like 2 blocks wide to get to like another Democrat stronghold. It just skips through the top of Bay Ridge because Bay Ridge would not elect him, right? Bay Ridge has Nicole Maliotakis, and so it's just this teeny sliver just so he can get to the rest of the Democrats.
Democrats are so good at districting. They're so good at districting, and Republicans like, well, we don't want to be seen as racist, so we have to make fair maps. It's like, look at their maps.
I hate the Republicans for not having the balls to be as good as the Democrats are at that. And I hate the Democrats for even doing that. They should be simply like wards in a city, or just all of Manhattan is one district.
There's going to become a battle. Let me bring up New Hampshire. Get you excited, Phil. There's going to be a battle in New Hampshire where right now the legislature is working through new maps to present to Kelly Ayotte, the governor, and I think it's going to become a very big national movement because they could realistically, legally, and I would argue correctly, adjust the maps to make one of those seats a competitive Republican seat. And so I think, there's a district right there that could move, but it's going to take a lot of pressure from folks out there. Call your people in New Hampshire, but that's going to be one of the only seats that, because of maps, could move. That would be
stellar. But I think that the rest of the country should follow suit. But the idea that a 2-block stretch connects two significantly,
it's crazy.
Yeah, significantly different pieces of of New York. It's insane. But I do want to point out, a friend of mine sent me a text and asked, when did Chris Kattan become a politician? Talking about this.
He's
Tandieri guy.
It does kind of look like Chris Kattan.
I thought
That's funny.
he's like a tan Chris Kattan.
I wrote this guy off as a loony because he was smiling a lot when he was talking, and then I gave him a chance on Piers Morgan. I listened for a short period of time. Okay, he's probably a normal guy. I think Tim had a great combo with him on Piers Morgan. I haven't seen the whole article yet. But what I really want to know is there anything to these? Are these impeachments legit? Are these 7 counts? Any of them? No. Is there anything about any of it that's legit?
If you listen to the discussion that Tim had with him, it was all just, well, I don't like Donald Trump and we don't like what he's done and this is unpopular and that's unpopular.
Yep.
And that's as partisan as it gets. So to say that this is, something that rises to the level of impeachment is absolutely ridiculous. I think that this is just like Tim says, I think it's just a stunt. The Democrats don't have leadership, and so this guy's trying to plant his flag.
Because it's almost like that's too stupid to be real. But I think you might be right.
It's not.
They didn't run it by leadership. I didn't know that till just now.
And it's so stupid because I think at a certain point, look, you can always introduce articles of impeachment. Again, if you have the majority, which they don't even have, but if you have it and you want to go through the process, but your voters have to want that. Your voters, the American people, not just your actual voters, but all these swing districts are going to be impacted by that. And if it becomes this petty battle against Trump, and I just think with all of these, the guy was shot in the face. The guy was impeached. They tried to convict him of all these crazy things. Once again, Democrats have not learned, and I think that's why these three are pulling their names. Because I think as much as Schumer and them are kind of flirting with it, I think politically behind the scenes, their strategists, if they have just an ounce of any type of strategy left, I don't think there's an appetite for this even amongst Democrats.
No, I don't think so either. And when you look at it too, you keep seeing Democrat leadership start saying about how they need to take, Democrats need to take to the streets and start protesting and all of that stuff. And we're not seeing as much of that as you might have thought that we would. There's a lot less energy for rioting and protests and screaming your bloody head off.
Retired boomers.
Among normal people, and it's just the retired boomers who are out there doing their weird hippie dances and complaining about how nobody else is joining them. Meanwhile, they're like, I'm having so much trouble affording my summer house and my normal home. What am I going to do? These are the same people that are not sharing. This is the group that is most adverse to leaving their wealth behind. They're still traveling around the world trying to find themselves. The rest of us are like, really, we figured out in our 20s that we probably just need to pay our bills.
Well, and with these particular articles of impeachment as well, for instance, the creation of an unlawful office in terms of DOGE is kind of insanity because DOGE was not going around and making these changes. I think the media painted that very differently than what it actually was because DOGE was just looking in. They just were going through the books of these different agencies and seeing, well, what's really here? And then they were making recommendations. Yeah. And then the agencies would do with that what they will.
Not only that, the DOGE is actually the continuation of
U.S. Digital Services.
Yeah,
it was USDS, and then it was Obama started it in 2014, and then Trump renamed it. They got in office day after to U.S. It's still USDS, U.S. DOGE offices now. It's the same office. So it was created by executive order legally. It's legal to change the name of it. It was legally created.
Yeah.
So it's not even so the articles of impeachment are actually wrong because it wasn't created by Donald Trump. It was created by Barack Obama.
But it has Elon's name attached to it, so we have to hate it.
Well, yeah, that's really what it is. It's all about the people that are involved, not about whether or not there's a necessity for it, which clearly there is. Very few people think, oh, no, every dollar that the government spends is used very wisely, right down to the penny. There's no waste, there's no fraud, blah blah blah. No one thinks that. Like, there's not an American out there that would say, no, I think that they really spend our money wisely.
Yeah, even the people protesting, and I'll only use my parents as examples because they went out and protested. They were reliving the late 60s, 1969, and
Just recently they did?
yeah, like a month ago. And I was like, what are you guys protesting? And they were like, well, Trump. And I'm like, well, what are you protesting for? And they were like, I don't know. I got to go, Ian. My dad was like, I got to go. We'll talk about it later. And I'm like, because there's nothing. They don't. I think they're afraid they're going to lose their retirement funds because of the kooky-ladoo going on in the government right now. And I mean, that's an inevitable. We're hitting an inevitable wall anyway at 36 trillion in debt. So they're out there trying to stop that all from happening. But unless you create, like you were saying earlier, Cliff, like a better plan to make gas cheaper, like unless you present that, the protests don't have any emphasis. I mean, the Vietnam protests were like end the Vietnam War. So they were anti-LBJ, stop the war. I don't know if they actually had something to create.
I'm gonna jump in real quick. They weren't so much anti-Vietnam War because they were anti-war. They were anti-Vietnam War because they were on the side of the communists.
But also because that was the first war where we actually saw war televised. I mean, you had journalists.
Agreed. It was real.
Yeah, you had journalists like that was out in the jungle or whatever, actually filming what was going on. This is what was being broadcast to people in the evening. So I think part of it was when you look at that kind of carnage, that's really hard to stomach. I mean, if the Dresden firebombing had been televised live to people's homes, people would have had a much different idea of what was going on in Dresden as well. I mean, seeing children like set on fire because the air was on fire, like that's going to be rough, right? That's hard to stomach. But I don't think it was just because everyone was on the side of the communists. I think people were losing their sons and brothers and dads.
I think the people I'm talking about the people that were like out in the streets protesting.
Like the dirty hippies.
Yeah, the people that were on college campuses that were protesting. They were protesting not because they're against war. As a concept, it's because they were on the side of the communists.
I mean, I wonder. Like, I protested war myself, like back in the old days of George W. Bush.
Yeah, but that was a totally different.
It was a totally different kind of war. But
Yeah.
like, it was because I thought that the yellow cake thing was a lie, and there was probably we should have no war. Like, there's no reason to go to war against Iraq.
Yeah,
It seemed dumb.
but like I said, I think the contexts were very, very different.
Sure.
They were actual communists. The Vietnamese were actual communists. Vietnam was a communist country. North Vietnam was actually communists, and they were fighting actual communists in the U.S. They were like, no, or the people that were the earthy crunchies that were protesting. They were like, no, actually, they have good ideas.
I think the piece that turned it though was that there were so many people
Yes,
actually
I agree about
seeing
that.
what was going on.
Yeah, I agree that the effect of the news bringing that into people's homes can't be denied.
You see a guy.
I just watched The Wonder Years.
Oh, great show! Like some of that Vietnam footage is phenomenal, and it's on YouTube. Like he'll be there with a platoon, and then the guy gets shot, and then he's like, they're bandaging up his leg, and he's like almost in shock, just talking to the platoon, and then they medevac him out, and like they're hanging out. It's just a jungle, just like we go outside and sit down there, and it could be like there, like it's that realistic, and they're like 18 years old. And you're watching.
They're all kids, yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't a popular war overall, and the fact that the draft was part of it was another big thing. The wars that we fought in the 21st century, regardless of your feeling about them, the people that went to war, they volunteered. There was no draft. Everybody that went there,
people would show up, or people would like volunteer early.
Yeah.
This stuff with DOGE that people are protesting, if that's what they're protesting, it's so vague. A lot of it's been happening behind the scenes that it seems like people don't really know what they're protesting.
Yeah, but let me throw a warning out there. I mean, I thought the same thing, and then this Wisconsin Supreme Court race happened, and we lost by 10 there. And if you look at the entire messaging, so Indivisible, the left-wing group, did a lot of work on the ground, and we got a hold of their scripts, and their entire script was simply Elon Musk is a monster. And the power of fear, right? The power of just making Elon this horrible creature that, whatever they're protesting for, it doesn't matter if they don't have a message, right? If you have a boogeyman, If you have, and Wisconsin proves it. I wish it didn't, right? I wish at the Wisconsin race you could see, hey, they were talking about, certain issues that the left cared about. No, it was Elon Musk is the devil. And if you want to stop him, we have to elect this Democrat to the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And they won by 10 points. Now, people can say Republicans were complacent, that we didn't have something that was motivating our side. But that worries me, that voters react that way, and their entire message was Elon bad. You can stop him by voting for the Democrat.
Man, it's Canada. Look, sorry, Libby, but this
ahead.
Canadian election, it's the ultimate example of Trump scaring people and then them voting against him. Or
it was mostly boomers. It was mostly boomers that voted liberal. We ran a story on that the other day. Boomers were terrified of Trump, and everybody else just wanted to be able to have decent housing. But it was the boomers that gave this election in Canada to the Liberals.
Why are the boomers so afraid of Donald Trump?
Because they're his same age group. I feel like that has something to do with it. Like, he's their peer. And so they all watched him, like, be this, dick playboy this whole time. And they hate his tone of voice. They, hate his tone. They hate his oeuvre. They hate his vibe. That's what they hate about him. And when, this always happens with my mom, and I'll be like, because my mom's very lefty and everything, and she'll be like, I hate Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, well, what about this idea? And she's like, that's not a bad idea. And I'm like, what about this? And she's like, no, that's a pretty good idea. And I'm like, so what do you hate about Trump? And she's like, well, I just hate everything about him. It's like they hate the man.
There's no substance there.
There's no substance. Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.